Good day, BEC111 students. We are moving on to chapter 8, where we are looking at organizing, which is also one of the 4 management functions. This is the outline that we will follow. We'll look at the introduction, importance of organizing, fundamentals of organizing, the informal organization, then factors that influence organizational structure, and that will be the end of the chapter. So organizing, this is basically the process of delegating and coordinating tasks, activities, and resources in order to achieve organizational objectives. So it involves the deployment of resources, allocation of resources in an organization in order to achieve the goals of the organization. So it's not an issue of just allocating resources, but you also coordinate to ensure that the various functional areas of an organization are working together in harmony. Why organizing is important? Organizing provides detailed analysis of work that needs to be done and the resources that need to be used to accomplish the goals of the business. What needs to be done and also the resources that are needed to achieve that particular task. Organizing also helps to divide total workload into activities that can comfortably be performed by an individual or even by a group or a team. It also promotes productive deployment and utilization of resources. When resources are allocated to various units, various individuals, that can be done in a way that is proper, that is well thought, where you do not just rush to allocate resources or to deploy resources, but you do it in a productive way, in a way that will be profitable and will be of benefit to the organization. Related activities and tasks of individuals can also be grouped together rationally in specialized departments. It can be done properly. It can be done after careful thought, after careful reasoning. That's when related activities and tasks of individuals or even of groups can actually be put together in specialized departments. So we'll focus also on issues to do with departmentalization. We will also look at the issue of specialization. Development of an organizational structure results in a mechanism that coordinates the activities of the whole business into a complete, uniform, and harmonious unit. The issue of designing jobs. Job design basically relates to the determination of an employee's work-related responsibilities. We'll focus more on this when we look at human resources management. The departure point is to determine the level of specialization within the organization. Specialization basically is the way in which a task is broken down into smaller units to take advantage of specialized knowledge or skills to improve productivity. So specialization has its own advantages. It also has its own disadvantages. We'll come back to specialization. Let me just touch on job specification, which explains what must be done and sets the expected performance standards. So specification, it specifies what must be done and also sets the expected performance standards. Then specialization, this is the way in which a job or a task is broken down into smaller units to take advantage of specialized knowledge or skills in an organization in order to improve productivity. So if in an organization there's specialization, it means people will be assigned to do things that they have knowledge about, that they have skills about, things that they are competent to do. But now the problem is people will have to do only that, and they have to do it again and again. So some claim that specialization can lead to boredom, because doing the same thing again and again, it can actually become sort of a routine, which will lead to boredom. In as much as there are advantages to say, if you are to do what you are able to do, you can do, and you are doing it over and over again, you can become more proficient in doing it. It's also acceptable that it can lead to boredom. So specialization itself can also lead to demotivation of employees. That's why in the next slide, or in this slide, we look at alternatives in designing jobs in order to counter boredom and dissatisfaction of specialization. So you can do job rotation instead of specialization. You can do job rotation, where you can move your employees from one job to the other in your organization. Instead of saying, no, this one they only work in the finance department, you move them in various functions, and they perform tasks in different functions. There's also what is known as job enlargement, where you increase the number of tasks an employee is supposed to do. So you increase the number of tasks that they are supposed to do, but you do not increase responsibility. So they can do other tasks which are not necessarily theirs, but they will not become responsible for those tasks. But there is also what is known as job enrichment, where you include both the number of tasks and associated responsibility. So you increase the number of tasks, and they will also become responsible for those additional tasks. We also have work teams. Work teams allow an entire group to design a work system it will use to perform the interrelated set of tasks, where they will play complementary roles in achieving that particular task. So these four can be used to counter boredom as a result of specialization. Then we will also look at grouping jobs. Jobs can be grouped in organizing. You can actually group jobs, and one way of doing it is through departmentalization. Various organizational structures can be developed through departmentalization, and departmentalization can take the form of functional departmentalization, where you form departments being guided by the functions that you have in the organization. Departmentalization can also take place using or being guided by products that are offered or that are manufactured in an organization. So if you have two products, you can have department product A, department product B, each department with its leadership, and they work in that way to achieve the goals of the organization. Departmentalization can also be done using location, which is geographic departmentalization. Like a department in another province, then you have a department in another province or in another region. Departmentalization can also take the form of customer departmentalization, whereby you can group jobs using the type of customers that you are servicing. For example, if you have government, you have consumers, and you have those that are buying to resell, you can classify jobs in terms of customers. Then we have matrix organizational structure, which combines different forms of departmentalization. So the next slides will just be giving us an overview, or will just be depicting how these forms of departmentalization can actually take place. So we'll use diagrams for us to understand. So this is an example of functional departmentalization, where we may have the managing director, then we have a number of functional managers reporting to him, like operations manager, financial manager, marketing manager, human resource manager, reporting to the managing director. So this is an example of functional departmentalization. Then about products, you can see here, although we can maintain the same top level managers, the managing director, we can have different managers reporting to him. The other one responsible for consumer products and the other one being responsible for industrial products. So in this case, we have consumer product, the department focusing on consumer products and the department focusing on industrial products. We can also have location departmentalization, where we have various managers in various areas or locations. In this case, we are using an example of provinces. That we can have a manager in the Eastern Cape province, a manager in the Western Cape province, a manager in the Gauteng province, and a manager in KwaZulu-Natal, Free State, and so forth. And all these provinces would then be classified as separate departments in the organization. The same with customer departmentalization. We can also classify departments in terms of customers. Then with matrix departmentalization, here it shows people that have line authority that flows through the chain of command, and also people with staff authority. So departmentalization, we can actually combine different types of departmentalization in a matrix organizational structure. Organizing is also important for establishing reporting relationships. So it helps in developing clear and precise reporting lines. Who reports to who? Who is responsible for what? Who has authority over what? Or over who? Then it also helps to establish the chain of command and also to determine the span of management. Span of management, basically, this is the number of people that directly report to a manager, or the number of people that a manager has direct authority over, that directly report to him. That's the span of management. Some refer to it as the span of control. So in this case, we're looking at reporting relationships in the span of control. So where we have a narrow or high structure, there will be few people reporting to one manager. If the structure is high, it's like a lot of people reporting to each other, like there are different levels of management. A lot of levels of management. You will actually see that there will be a small span of management. But where we have a flat or a broad structure, the span of management will be high, or there will be a lot of people reporting to one manager. So you need to be able to understand the relationship between the type of structure and also the span of management. Establishment of authority relationships, assignment of tasks to sections and members of staff also entails the assignment of responsibility, authority, and accountability. You need to understand the differences between responsibility and authority. Authority is basically the right to give orders, or the right to command orders. Then responsibility, this is the duty to perform. The duty to perform. In terms of authority, we have what is known as line authority, which flows through the chain of command. Then we have what is known as staff authority, which is more of advisory. It doesn't really flow through the chain of command, but it's authority, like advice from marketing managers. If you are a finance manager, or advice from a marketing manager if you're a production manager. That's basically staff authority. They can advise you, but you do not necessarily report to them. So in this case, we see that these people that have where we take orders from, or these people that can give orders, they have what is known as line authority over those that are below them. But these people that are at the same level with, they can have staff authority. Then people like from marketing research and legal advisors, they also have what is known as staff authority. They do not have line authority because their authority doesn't flow through the chain of command. Coordinating activities involves linking activities of various departments in an organization into a single integrated unit. Because as an organization, at the end, you have to operate as a single unit. The need for strategic managers, the need for general management. Primary reason is that departments and groups within a business are interdependent. They depend on each other, and they require each other to perform their activities. Timing is necessary because various smaller tasks have to be scheduled to mesh with one another. So that's why there's need for organizing. We will also look at the informal organization. Here we are saying interpersonal relationships between people in the business that are not defined by the formal organizational structure. That's what we define as informal organization. This comes about as a result of regular interaction between people. As people interact, as people meet and see each other in the organization, they form relationships. So these are not relationships which are governed by the organizational structures or by the rules of the organization. They just result as people interact, as people see each other, they develop relationships. Informal organization ought to be encouraged because that's where informal communication takes place. Those who know, you actually realize that informal communication is very, very important. Grapevine in an organization can be very, very important. You can use it for the advantage of the organization. So informal communication takes place in much more rapid pace than formal communication. These informal organization or informal groups, they also ought to be promoted because they promote teamwork within departments. They can also be used to support the formal organization. There are a number of factors that influence organizational structure. For you to choose a tall structure or a narrow structure or a broad structure, there are a number of factors that you ought to consider. For instance, the size of the business, the staff that are employed by the business, the culture within the organization, and the relationship between strategy of the organization and the structure that you consider. We cannot leave out the issue of environment in which the business is operating. Is it technologically dominated? Is it turbulent? Or is it a stable environment? So there are a number of factors that influence organizational structure. For an organization to finally adopt a narrow structure or a broad structure, they consider some of these factors that are on this particular slide. That is it about organizing. We need to also read further and read this particular chapter in the textbook. Where we have questions, we are free to ask on Blackboard so that we can interact. Thank you so much.